The economic freedom fighters have been embroiled in a massive scandal this week, an airing of dirty laundry, and the fallout across the country has been so massive that it has even provoked the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema himself, to publicly weigh in. That's the first big news story on News Worth Knowing this week. The second is that the Cape Independence Party, who insist that the Western Cape should break away from South Africa and form its own state, well, they were brutally exposed this week too. We're going to tell you all about that. This is The Issue with Dan Corder. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. If you're brand new here, you should know that all of these public access episodes are available in longer version on podcasts and all the big podcast streamers. You can find us there. And we have a Patreon where for less than 100 Rand a month, you can support the show, keep the lights on, and get access to our exclusive expert interviews, one a week on massive issues facing South Africa. Finally, pop us a like and a subscribe if you like anything you're about to see, or even just last a few minutes of my annoying voice. Right, let's get into the scandal with the fighters. The EFF has been quiet, too quiet. It felt like we were due a drama. We were due some kind of explosion. I think it's because a couple of their members were banned from attending the State of the Nation address, and so then the rest of them boycotted it, and that's usually the EFF's big day. It's the premiere, it's opening night of their new year, and kind of like the way you feel suspicious, like it's been quiet, too quiet, like when we haven't been load shedding in a little while. I feel like we were all preparing. Like something was coming. But what nobody expected was an incident involving an EFF member to explode into the disaster that it's become for the Red Berets. Just on Monday, we released our exclusive interview with Naledi Chirwa. She is an extremely prominent, well-known member of the Economic Freedom Fighters. She's one of the youngest MPs, members of parliament, from any political party in South Africa's history. She's got a massive following online. She is one of the most significant young black women in South African politics. And at the same time as we released that episode on Monday, and to be clear, we didn't know she was going to do this at that time. She approached us last week and we did the interview last week, but she went on Twitter and she tweeted an apology. She essentially apologized to the Economic Freedom Fighters broadly as an organization, as a political movement, for not rocking up to a budget speech that she was supposed to attend, where she was supposed to represent the EFF. Now, maybe that doesn't sound like such a big deal, so I'm going to actually read you what this letter said, because the letter is the reason why we are now here as a nation. Fellow fighters and South Africans, please note this as my sincere apology for my absence in Parliament on the 21st of February 2024. I'm regretful for failing to attend Parliament. My 4-month-old daughter was sick, and so I went home. My daughter is currently with my mother until post-elections. This to allow me the opportunity to be completely engaged in organizational work during this period and to form part of the collective that will usher an EFF government post to 29 May 2024. I reported my absence from organizational duties to the organization and not to the designated whip in our caucus in Parliament, and am particularly regretful of this. I attended the PC for Higher Education in Parliament on the virtual platform on the same day and contributed to the business of the day. Unfortunately for the budget speech, there was no hybrid facility that could allow me to be present online, only physical attendance for the budget speech, thus my inability to be present. This has no bearing on my commitment and dedication to my beloved organization and South Africans. I do not doubt my commitment to the movement of the people and the responsibility we've been entrusted with in the Parliament of South Africa. This is the primary reason why I went on maternity leave a day before I gave birth and returned 2 months prior to the lapse of my maternity leave. I will duly fulfill the reprimand set by the organization for my absence on the day to purchase 2 gazebos before the 28th of March, and second to that, to publicize this apology as I have done. Now, unsurprisingly, that letter went viral, and there's a lot to unpack there. But before we get to the serious stuff, I just have to note, since when do we pay for mistakes in gazebos? What exactly is the exchange rate gazebos to mistakes? Like the size of the mistake equals how many gazebos? So if missing a work meeting is 2 gazebos, lying to your partner is what, 5 gazebos? Cheating, 20 gazebos? Somebody needs, can an economist explain this to me? This feels very important. Okay, but let's look at this letter and the reason it went viral. So she's apologizing for missing this budget speech, where she's not speaking, by the way, she's attending as a representative of the EFF. But she immediately frames it as, my newborn daughter, 4 months old, was sick, and so I chose to go home to attend the illness of my newborn child. And so immediately the EFF looks deeply unreasonable, especially because at the end of this letter, she says, I will duly fulfill the reprimand set by the organization. So the organization has disciplined her. That's why she's buying the gazebos for them. She also then went on to describe what a good fighter she's been for the organization. The fact that she only went on maternity leave a day before giving birth, which is crazy. The fact that she had an allotted maternity leave and she came back 2 months before the end of that maternity leave to once again, she was showing her commitment to the organization. Now, on one reading, you can say Naledi Chirwa was apologizing, but she was making sure that her struggle credentials were there, that her commitment to the organization was clear. She wanted to save, preserve her own reputation. But on the other hand, she's definitely casting shade, right? Like she says she notified some members of the organization, but just not the exact right channel. It's making the EFF sound unreasonable at the point at which she did make it clear why she would not be there to some people. She also framed it as, I'm going to care for my child. Obviously, that is true. So she has perfectly within her rights to say that that's the case. But the fact that she said it makes the EFF seem cruel and uncaring and insensitive to a mother trying to care for their newborn baby who is ill. Then she says, I've basically decided to stop being a mother by giving my child to my mother, the child's grandmother, until the end of the elections, so I can fully commit to the struggle. Now, maybe some people think that's laudable, but for others, it's like you are very loudly making the point that you feel like to stand up for the fighters, to represent them well, or to deal with whatever peer pressure or expectations there are within the organization, that you need to do that for your 4-month-old child. Whatever her intentions were, and you can decide what you think they were, it made the EFF look really bad. And that's not just me saying it. Immediately there was a pile on, particularly because Naledi Chirwa is iconic for fighting, particularly for the rights of women and opportunities for Black women. She spoke about it on our interview, how important it is to give Black women meaningful opportunities in a context where a patriarchal society and a racist one has ground the lives of Black women into very, very little and stripped opportunities of them. And so many people were saying, why did you treat her like this, EFF? Particularly because the EFF has often been accused of being a male-dominated, misogynistic organization. And yet the EFF has always insisted for years that they are fighting for the rights of particularly Black women in South Africa. So Naledi must have known that phrasing her apology like this was going to be a bad look. And nobody knows whether she passed this letter of apology through whatever chain of command had disciplined her and reprimanded her and told her that she needed to apologize for this transgression of 2 weeks prior. We don't know that. Maybe it was approved by some level of the EFF. But the fallout was mad. Naledi Chirwa was almost instantly the top trending topic on Twitter. And there were so many people. There were comments like, Naledi's not a fool, exposing the party leadership in that apology for what they are. She did good. Now we know. Another one, I don't think any mother should issue a public apology for taking family responsibility leave. I don't think Naledi should have been made to issue a public apology. Another one, what kind of toxic environment is Naledi working in? The details of that apology are chilling. Just unacceptable, man. Here's another one. A pro-worker organization committed to gender empowerment that publicly humiliates a mother of 2 after she cut her maternity leave 2 months short because she had to take her sick baby to hospital after she reported her absence to the organization. The math is not mathing. And then just one more. I've watched Naledi Chirwa's work on behalf of the EFF for years now. She is consistent in her commitment to the pillars, the poor, the party. Why isn't she allowed to be committed to her child? And unsurprisingly, this almost instantly blew up into a broader discussion of how deeply unreasonable, unfair, and, patriarchal most workplaces are. That women are expected to be the primary caregivers and around their children all the time and raising them, but also expected to rock up at work, while men who are also, fathers are not expected to, sacrifice their work opportunities or work dedication for raising their children at all. To a degree, we do need to keep this all in context because Twitter is a very small place, actually. It's just got a massively outsized influence, but that's important to think about, right? So very few South Africans actually use Twitter. Vastly more use the other social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. But Twitter's got this extraordinary influence on our news cycle because the media and politicians use Twitter to communicate directly to the public. So when something trends on Twitter, it's going to get into the water supply. It's going to be reported on and end up on other social social media sites because it started there. And Naledi Chirwa fought back, hey? Like, she took on and tried to take down a bunch of people who were, in their view, standing for her and criticizing an allegedly toxic working environment at the Economic Freedom Fighters. She was clapping back and trying to put people in their place. And many people who are Economic Freedom Fighters champions and supporters were congratulating her in the comments, saying that they accepted her apology, turning outward to face the world, saying, no, she did the right thing, and all of you are just trying to take down the fighters, and it's an agenda, and you've been waiting for this opportunity, and you've twisted her words and like tried to distract from the real issues. There was a real war happening. And as I was sitting, watching, reading, listening to people in my life talk about this for the last few days, I was thinking, is this going to be so big a distraction, such a big problem, that it's going to provoke the commander-in-chief, Julius Malema, the only one who truly really matters at that organization, the one who, if you please life, goes well, the one who, if you don't please life, political life ends very quickly. And it's crazy, just before we started recording this video, Julius Malema tweeted. He tweeted about exactly this. And again, I'm going to read it to you because the shockwaves being felt across the country, even tonight, Wednesday, what's the date today? Wednesday, the 6th of March at 25 to 9 p.m. It's everywhere. So Julius Malema tweeted, "The letter's inappropriate insinuations have forced our movement into a defensive stance, detracting our members from the immediate task of doing door-to-door because they must now defend their movement from rubbish. In situations where we must choose between an individual and the organization, we must always prioritize the organization." That is wild. When you say something has inappropriate insinuations, it means that thing has inappropriate insinuations, which must mean that he's taken the letter as a slight against the Economic Freedom Fighters. He has taken it as one of his most significant party members, somebody who's a champion for two groups of people that the EFF really cares about, young people and women, black women specifically, has slighted his organization and therefore slighted him. And what he's doing here is he's regretting what it's made the EFF do in the last 2-3 days, defend themselves from criticism in a mass media storm. Notice he's not trying to dismiss it and say, this is being blown out of proportion, it's a mountain out of a molehill, the media should get over themselves, because he's very good at doing that. He's often told the media to get over itself. In situations where we must choose between individual and organization, we have to protect and prioritize the organization. So he's saying, Naledi, we're not going to fight for you. The organization is more important. Maybe he's softly saying through the insinuations, you will be dealt with, but he's definitely saying to everyone defending her, stop it, get back to what you're supposed to be doing. And that is huge. But the fact that he's commented so late makes fools of all of the hundreds, thousands of EFF members, besides Naledi Chirwa, also including her, but also besides her, who've been fighting in defense of this letter for the last 72 hours. And ultimately, it's really not helping the EFF beat the allegations that they are toxic and misogynistic as a work culture. It is doing no work to prove to South Africa that actually the EFF is kind to and considers women. And although they're saying they're fighting for the rights of women, that they actually care for and treat women well and fairly and with consideration within their own ranks. It is a real mess. And Malema's statement is only going to make it bigger. And I'd like to believe, or I think that he knew that going in would make this storm even more massive, make it a serious thing, a serious crisis, because he sent a message across his organization, all of his activists, all of his campaigners. He must have deemed this such a big problem for the fighters that he had to step in and change the narrative, change the direction, stop the fighters batting for Naledi Chirwa and her letter. So I don't know what's going to happen now. I'm recording on Wednesday night. You're probably getting this on Thursday afternoon. Maybe more madness has happened, but this is a particular challenge for the fighters because they're now dealing with the reputational damage of potentially, what are they going to do now? Victimize Naledi Chirwa further? How are they going to switch the narrative? How are they going to talk about something else? How are they going to make so many South Africans forget about this? It's rough for the fighters. The second one today is a little shorter. So the Cape Independence Party, right? They are very cross this week because You need to get a certain amount of signatures of support to be a political party or an independent candidate and actually get on the ballot. You need to prove to the IEC that you've got some support, or even want to have you just be on the ballot as an option for people to vote for. And the deadline is very soon. And the Cape Independence Party, the one with all of the imaging that looks like the Confederate flag, those guys, they have only got 200 signatures. They need 7,000 to be on the provincial ballot. They need 13,000 to be eligible to become members of parliament if they get enough votes. And they have 200 votes. Guys, that is so embarrassing. All of those independence nonsense referendum groups have been insisting. They've been insisting that everybody in the Western Cape wants to cut loose of South Africa. They've been presenting us bogus, fake nonsense, like actual fake evidence that they allegedly claim from bogus research studies and surveys to try and convince us that everybody in the Western Cape wants to cut loose. There was another study that said that 58% of everybody in the Western Cape wants to become independent from South Africa. 58%. We actually did the numbers, because we always come with the numbers. 58% of the population of the Western Cape is 4,311,151.6 people. Now, if that is true, if that research is true, out of all of those millions of people, there were 4,310,951.6 people in the Western Cape who allegedly want independence from South Africa, who find the Cape Independence Party so insufferable that they won't even sign an online signature form to get Cape Independence Party on the ballot, let alone vote for them, just an option to vote for. Guys, I can't even explain to you how embarrassing that is. 200 people is like a neighborhood watch WhatsApp group. Honestly, they may rush through enough votes on the finish line, but just before the deadline closes, but this is absolutely humiliating. So that's news worth knowing for the week on The Issue with Dan Corder. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sure in the coming days in our next episodes, we will update you particularly on the situation, this scandal, this crisis involving the economic freedom fighters, as well as a brand new special episode, the essay that comes out on Monday. Go check out our Patreon. Again, less than 100 Rand a month to support the show. And you get an exclusive expert interview every single week on a big issue facing South Africa. Thank you for watching. See you after the weekend.